Hey there, cats and kitties. I am the Blues Man, Johnny Blues, and with this video, we discuss my thoughts on episode 11 of the anime series DanMachi Gaiden Sword Oratoria. Damn! Loki Familia conquering floor after floor in this dungeon, finally getting down to level 59, and I'm just thinking as I'm watching this, like I'm going back over all the RPGs, Final Fantasy, and Dragon Quest that I've played in my life, and I'm thinking of all the quests down into the different dungeons and such like that, how hellacious it would actually be to not be living in a game world, the world would be real. All of this would be real. The dungeon and everything would be real. And you'd have so many floors to go down, deep down inside of it. And then you'd have to go through all of those subsequent floors again to get back out of it. How hellacious, how insane would that be? You know, there's no save point, there's no teleport, there's no way to get back out of there in the blink of an eye. You'd have to climb back up through all of those floors you traversed down and run into all those creatures again and again and again. You know, arguably, as you leveled up and things like that, it would become a little bit easier to go up against all the creatures you confronted on the way inward, to the dungeon. Arguably so, but I mean, it would break my last nerve, and especially if you were in this as a living, breathing world, as a real world, it'd be that much more so to know that you're risking your life and then some. It doesn't matter how much bravado you have. If you meet an adversary that is stronger than you, you are dead in the water. You're dead to rights, and it seems insane to me. I'm watching this and following this crew going down into these dungeon depths, and it's just insane. It's like, oh my god, I'm on the edge of my seat, the brink of madness just watching it, you know. But we do see that most of them hold their own. They encounter these giant spiders, and Lafia at one point has her arm grappled by some spider webbing, and they're getting firebombed from all directions, I think, by these dragons. And one of the fire bombings, opens a chasm that goes all the way down to the bottommost depths of this thing, 58th floor. From the 51st, I think, was the one they were on when that firebomb attack actually opened the chasm. And Lafia gets, tossed down in this thing, and Tione and Tiona and Bete, they all follow after her to make sure she's going to be okay. Gareth, the big burly dude, he drops in after all of them, and they wreak havoc with all of these larva, bug creatures and all of these dragons oncoming. I mean, it was an onslaught. But it was definitely one that had, my breath caught in my throat. I was like, I don't know how this is going to play out, for all of the leveling that they've probably done. I mean, we're not familiar with all of their different levels, but probably between 5 and 6 and such like that. And I think they said Gareth is a level 6, and we know Eyes now is as well. It's just to see them wreaking havoc on all of these dragons and quelling them for a time, but then, of course, that onslaught is as yet renewing and oncoming again and again and again, and it takes Eyes and Riviera to catch up with them, finally taking the long way around with Finn and some of the smiths, the swordsmiths and everything, to finally catch up with them. And, she unleashes all this ice magic, and just they are able to finally quell all of these creatures' attacks for time enough to have a small respite. But it was exciting, and I was on the edge of my seat. Again, my breath was caught in my throat because I'm imagining what it would be like to be in that position, to have to be so physically strong and fit and, hold your own with all of these creatures, and know that every step deeper down within this dungeon you're taking, you're going to have to climb up through all of those depths all over again to get back out. There is no saving grace, other than those floors that are dedicated to respites and rest spots. There's no saving grace, so you're going to have to go through it, as much going out as you did coming in. And so for that, it was just mind-blowing, of course. We call over, of course, once again to Uranus and Fells is showing Uranus the fact that Loki Familia has gotten down this deep within the levels, and he's very curious to see this, very much answering to my speculation that he is observing things. He might not actually have a hand in it, at least tipping the hat to acknowledging that speculation was that sequence. As well as we have, Revis approached by someone whom I thought might be Fells at first. But this is the first time we see somebody, with a face mask under the hood and everything. And the voice was a little bit different. And they're talking about, appeasing Ennio. Who is Ennio? I feel like I've heard that name before, but I think I'm thinking of something else. I don't think it was from DanMachi. But whomever this is that Revis has been working underneath or alongside with, has had her powers exploited, I guess is her, position on things based on the conversation she has with this masked unknown person representing whomever Enio is. I guess Enio is the god or goddess or whatever that is the end game. And I'm almost willing to, marry it with my speculation that we're going to see Arya again at some point. A corrupted soul or something along those lines, somehow modified or transmogrified with a creature or something, and Enio will be that presence, because Revis was of the opinion that whomever this is, they're not a god. They don't look like a god. You had the guy that she in turn killed, who was under the impression, adverse to that whomever this is, whoever this Enio is, was in fact a god, that he was doing godly work. And Revis killed him for that, for that just ignorance and obtuseness, if that's even a word. So they get down to that level and they realize, well, wait a minute, it's kind of supposed to be like an icy tundra. And there's none of that. There's no ice. There is a very humid jungle sort of setting, and they realize the plants are very much like the plants they had already encountered on the above floors. And we leave off with the cliffhanger of whom I believe, unless I am very much mistaken, I believe we've finally seen Revis evolve after eating all of those crystals in that sequence where she's talking to that masked, hooded person representing Enio. I think we've finally seen her evolve into a creature, because when this creature, transforms into a humanoid form at its top, still being very much plant-like at its base, after consuming a bunch of these little larvae creatures, it says Arya. Now, I don't think it's announcing itself as being Arya. I think it's seeing eyes, much as Revis does, and mistaking her for her own mother, Arya. So that tips the hat to me that this is an evolved form, a nemesis form, endgame boss or end-level boss form of Revis, which is the cliffhanger we leave off on. And I can only assume that, the next episode, I think it's going to be the finale for this season, we'll see them answering to her, beating the hell out of her, destroying her, and then uncovering some final truth or something along those lines. I can only hope the other leg will drop and all the mysteries that, have pervaded this entire season will be answered, will be called to form. So we know exactly what the hell this has all been about and who's been behind it and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, it was highly exciting. It was, again, I was on the edge of my seat. It was palpable, all of the tension of going down so deep within this dungeon, all of these creatures and foes that Loki Familia went up against. And I liked the little pockets of characterization with Lafia. I mean, you've got Tiona, who's absolutely fanatical, going fangirl crazy about having witnessed what Belle accomplished against the Minotaur in the previous episode. And she's just talking off at the mouth about it so much. And this, of course, you think it's going to spurn Lafia. She's going to be jealous, and she does have some self-doubt. And she's thinking along the lines at first of the fact that, I've been trying to compete with this human. He is an adventurer. He accomplished these great feats, and that's sort of beyond my range. Maybe he's slipped ahead of me, and it's something that I can never really accomplish to try to match that in the eyes of eyes, and such like that. But then she actually has this awakening that I was like, oh, hell yes, where she starts to gain perspective on her own surroundings. Rather than thinking about somebody else getting the better of her, doing something greater than she has as yet accomplished, being an adventurer, going on an adventure, she starts to really harbor the awareness of what her current surroundings are in the here and now. Forget about the future. Forget about what I can accomplish, someday if I keep trying hard enough. Appreciate whom I'm surrounded by. I have eyes here with me now. I have Loki Familia here with me now. I have reached such incredible heights and levels of power on my own, of my own accord, studying and training under eyes, under all, Riviera, under Filvis and all this other kind of stuff. She finally began to appreciate what she had in the here and now. And that is the utmost important thing for anybody in this, fantasy DanMachi universe or in the real world. We must not, take for granted the people, the friends, the family we are surrounded by, the surroundings we find ourselves within. If we have anything to be grateful for, we should be grateful for the blessings we have in the here and now. Of course, we should always strive to better ourselves in the future, but by leaving behind and forgetting about where you now find yourself in the here and now, you'll never really, accomplish anything. You'll just lose out time and time again. And she finally gained and garnered that awareness for herself, which was a boost of confidence, for me, for her character. And I also really loved the sort of metaphorical terminology that the one, swordsmith woman is talking about with Eyes, about her own growth. When she was younger and more impetuous, she was like a flailing, sharp-edged sword. But as she grew and she evolved and she started to focus on things, and she started herself to take, appreciation of whom she was surrounded by, of her surroundings, of her accomplishments, being so inspired as well as an extension of that by Bell and her interactions with him and wanting to strive that much further, did she begin to become lesser and lesser impetuous, lesser and lesser a wild card. And she was a sword that then found her sheath. The sheath, the safety blanket, if you will, of her friends and her family and people she could be inspired by and she could protect as well as herself. And I loved that. I loved putting it into that particular, like phrasing, that particular viewpoint, that metaphor. It was so stark, to really speak to her nature as a character. She is a sword-wielding warrior woman, but she is a woman, and she has lost things before, and she has that compassion inborn in her that she's not always even aware of. But that's why she's so warmed to Belle. That's why she's so protective of Lafia and grateful toward Lafia for making her efforts to try to make her happier and things of that sort. She has warmed to people. She hasn't so much, remained that blunt-edged sword just flailing like mad. And I loved that. It was great. It was fantastic. A fantastic appraisal of her character. And overall, that's pretty much what stuck with me in this episode, other than the grand, tremendous excitement of going deep down into these dungeon depths to try to uncover whatever it is that is there to be uncovered. And as the one sort of last vestige they have to overcome, the evolved form, as I say, of whom I believe to be Revis, as this plant, human hybrid creature, whatever it is, once they overcome that, all of those untold secrets, all of those untold mysteries should finally unravel and be revealed to we the viewer as well as the characters. And I just can't wait. I can't wait to see how this is all going to shape up and shake down in the final episode. I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what you thought of episode 11 of DanMachi Gaiden Sword Oratoria. If you've seen it as well, if you enjoyed it as much as I did, found it as palpable and exciting as I did, or not. If not, why not? Let me know in the comments below. Just love having that conversation. But yeah, bring on the next one. I will be there with bells on to see how this, no pun intended, all shakes down. And yeah, otherwise that'll be pretty much it for me on this one. This video finds you well, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.